Welcome to Toronto TV. Today we are very lucky to have 4 guests today that attend this interview session. The 3 beautiful ladies, they went to Sichuan in 2008 to report the big Sichuan earthquake. And Jeff and I was the Chinese Media Association executives, and we organized that Chinese mission. All right, welcome, Jeff. Welcome, Christina Stevens. Welcome, Hussein. Welcome, Sherry. Hi.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah.
We're talking about you.
Very nice to see you again.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Our power went out this morning.
Oh.
We still have no power. So then I'm using my phone as a hotspot, but then the Zoom was on my husband's. But now it's working.
My
I have
goodness.
no light, so I can't make it pretty.
Canada has so many area lost the power.
Yeah, I don't know why ours did. It's bright and sunny here. And I have foster dogs here that might bark.
I see. So you 3, how long did you guys meet after the 2008?
Oh my God. It's been
Yeah.
Oh,
I just got the power back 2 days. I lost the power 5 days.
Oh, that's because Hussein is in Montreal, so that's why she lost power. Yeah. I think after the China mission, right? You guys did not meet each other.
Just, I think, at an event that you had.
Yeah.
There was an event later. Yeah.
I have a once, right?
Yeah.
20 now.
Oh, you look good. You all look good. Wow.
How about me? Krishna, you look good.
Yes, you look good, of course. Oh dear, it's been a long time.
It is.
Yeah. So I hope my dogs don't bark.
Okay. Yeah. Since you 3 in the China mission, right? And each one get some update from you guys. I mean, let's start with Christina. So I know you moved to Vancouver now, right?
Yeah, well, Vancouver Island.
Victoria,
So it's nice, just not working so hard, not so much craziness.
No, we are all different area.
Yeah, it's
Ohio. Yes.
Oh, really? Why Ohio?
You moved here 12 years now.
Yeah.
Since my husband changed job.
Oh, okay. Do you like it?
Yes.
Good.
People, it's not like Canadian people, but the weather is much better than Toronto.
Most places are. But I hear it's nice in Toronto today.
Yeah, I see. So sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Not fair.
Okay.
Oh, the picture's sideways. Some of the pictures.
Okay. I think, Christina, you meet Jeff. Jeff is our vice president of the Chinese Media Association at that time. Yeah. So right now, Jeff, me, and Hussein still in the Chinese media business.
Great.
Yeah.
Good.
Christina, right, the team, including you 3 and also Finn Burnett.
Oh.
Do you treasure the cooperation spirit or the team spirit at that time?
Absolutely. It was so natural and seamless. We all met, and from that very moment, I think we did work as a team. It was just everyone was on board with the same mission and the same goals, and I think the same ideals. So it was a perfect team.
Okay. So helping each other, right? So
absolutely. Especially Sherry.
Yeah.
Sherry just leaped in and basically, she acted as a fixer and helped all of us out with everything we needed and coordinated so much. There's no way we would have been able to cover half as many stories without Sherry there.
Yes.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Sherry mentioned that when you interview those kids, how to ask the questions, how to avoid their sadness, they lost their relatives, and then, and let the kids tell their direct feelings. So they also say you are real professional of the professionals.
Honestly, I think it's just being genuine and showing that you care, and you do care. I mean, I don't think, fortunately, none of us can imagine going through what they went through. So it's just trying to get some understanding. And I think anyone will share their story if they know somebody is genuine and wants to know and cares about what they're going through, right?
Christina, can you tell us, like, you were in the 2008 China mission. Can you tell us about your feeling joining this mission?
First of all, it's hard to believe it was so long ago. And, you know, I did look over a couple of my blog, a couple of things I'd written just before this. But even without looking at those, the things that stood out to me were, of course, the great tragedy and just the scope of what happened, but also the resilience of people we spoke with and how much they actually welcomed us there. I thought that they would not want us there. But the fact that people had come from Canada, people in Canada cared about what was happening to them. People in Canada wanted to see that they're okay. I think that went a long way. And just the stories, I mean, no shortage of stories, and just so different, you know, how young children were affected and families and older people, and, you know, the scope of it, again, entire villages. It was at times overwhelming. It was also, in a way, a beautiful experience, as tragic as it was, as strange as that might sound.
So, Sherry, Hussein, if you like to ask questions, feel free to do it. So my next question is that you may be the first Canadian English-speaking reporter in Sichuan at the time?
I think so. I think you guys had done all of the legwork and prepared our way for that. Certainly it was a challenge in some ways because I stood out a little bit. So it was a little harder for us to quietly go into places. And there were a few times that maybe we weren't as welcome. You know, there was a lot going on and officials wanted to make sure that was being taken care of first. And again, though, I didn't feel like people didn't want us there. I felt like they very much wanted us there. And we were able to see so many things and talk to so many people and get their stories.
You know, I mean is that, like, I believe that at that time CBC has the correspondent in Beijing, right? But no Chinese English media, they send reporters to Sichuan at that time. Is that right?
Well, and I think it was difficult. I think the Canadian Chinese Media Association is really what made it happen. I remember you had coordinated with the local media to get us in there and get visas and all of the right permissions in place. So I think that's really what allowed it to happen.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, you have a question on?
I just like to know is when Joseph and me and we went to somewhere and the Canadian and report to the Sichuan, is Global TV arranged to go there as or maybe you apply for this mission?
I applied for it.
Okay.
I can't remember how I saw it, but then as soon as I obviously had to speak with my bosses about it, and they were on board. They had high expectations. They wanted a lot of stories out of there in a short time. I also think that's good because that way we got a lot of airtime for the stories, right? But yeah, they were very excited. They were very on board with it as soon as we got going.
Okay, thank you.
So I think you told me is those CCNC Toronto chapter, they send you an email about this news mission, reporting mission. So
yeah, I can't remember what I had obviously done some stories with them before. There was some contact I had. And so then when I saw the email, I replied very quickly, I want to go, I want to go. Which might sound strange, but that's how reporters are.
Okay. And the news editor is, I think, Ron Waxman.
Ron Waxman,
Ron Waxman,
yeah.
So what impressed you most during this mission?
Well, again, I mean, the overwhelming, just the scope of it was crazy to see. But how quickly, I can't remember the exact timeline that we were there after it all happened, but how quickly it was 1 month. Yeah.
June
Okay.
12,
1 month.
June 12, yes.
And people were already trying, so many things were happening to try and get back to real life. Some places rebuilding was already starting. There were still, refugees living in a stadium, but they were trying to have a normalcy to life. I remember seeing some doctors on a breakout thing ping pong in the middle of this sort of refugee area. I remember walking down a street, and outside, kind of with some tarps, the hairdressers has set up a perfect little, hairdressing salon, and people were getting their hair done. Yeah. Kids going to school in tents, that kind of thing. And it might sound a little cheesy, but to me, the symbol of it, we visited a small village. No way I can remember the name. And it was pretty much flattened. There's no way around it. It was flattened. And then in the middle of where the village had been, and there was just debris and, wood and rocks, there was a tiny little flower, like a violet kind of a flower, just growing out. And I really feel like that symbolized how people there were coping. It was small, but it was starting again, and it was starting fresh, and it would not be held down by the destruction. And that's how I felt it was.
Yeah, I got the pictures. We'll show it later.
Yeah. And in the same, I think I just saw there was a little boy in that village that was so funny. He kept grabbing the microphone and so excited, and he was playing reporter. It was very sweet.
When you see the disaster, people like losing their relatives, did you hold your tears, or do you feel impressed? Or
yes, I think you have to have a certain amount of objectivity, and you can't feel everything, otherwise you couldn't cope. But I know by the end of it, by the last day, just going through all the people I had spoken with, all the stories that we had told, you have to feel it. These are human beings, each and every one of them. And I think the way they so eloquently talked to us about everything they had been through. At the end, there were definitely some tears. And even looking back, some of the stories, entire villages lost, entire families, a little child growing up. And I can't even imagine every single relative just gone, right? But again, going back to my theme, a bit of hope. I don't know if you guys remember in the hospital, the baby. We interviewed a mom and dad, and they just had their baby just like right after the earthquake. And I can't even begin to imagine the stress of all of that. And they named her the English translation was Earthquake Sunshine.
Yes.
So basically saying that after the earthquake, right? After the earthquake and everything they've been through, here was this baby, and that was their sunshine, and that represented the future to them. So there were, good times, bad times. A beautiful moment, actually, was we came across a village that was destroyed. These people had nothing. And one of you were starting to interview this older woman, and you ran out and gave her all the food. It was very sweet. I think it was Hushan, wasn't it you? Hushan, you ran out and gave her. Yeah. We were trying to interview her about how horrible it is, and we had all of our snack food in the trunk. So she's like, "Wait a minute," and just went and handed it all to her, which was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, that was Jay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Christina, is this the first time you were in China at that time?
No, actually, I had spent quite a bit of time in Hong Kong, which technically wasn't, still British then, and Shenzhen, just outside of Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. But this area, I really felt like Sichuan. It's beautiful, just geographically beautiful, and the city felt actually very similar to the west coast of Canada. The capital felt very similar to Vancouver, and just the people. There was, we met some local sort of what would you say, more like native people within the hills, and it was just a great variety of people we met, and it was beautiful. I would love to go back to Sichuan. I would love to. Be amazing to see it now, right? All the change. Wouldn't it be incredible to see? And if things have been built for those villages were just gone, it would be crazy to see. Because I'm sure it's,
Hussein go back to in 2018, the 10th anniversary.
Yeah, and
yes, and I reported. I also mentioned that 10 years ago we went together. And Terry, they made a big magazine, big like that, including our articles, including your picture and
Yeah, Christina has it.
The book.
Yeah.
The book. Yes, the book. It's fantastic. It's huge.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
you have that. 5 years ago, I gave to the local. They will keep in the museum.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So one of you has to stop by and translate the whole thing for me.
That's a very job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I think when you are available, I think we can organize another where we can together.
20 years anniversary.
Yes,
20
that's right.
20
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. I think I will try to go 5 years later. Yeah. So, Sichuan spicy food, famous for spicy food and also scenery. Do you for that 10 days mission, do you find the food, living environment is okay or just too, because after the disaster, so it would be too rough or too uncomfortable?
No, it was fine. I mean, because the main city was fairly untouched, and we stayed and we used it as a base and went out all different directions from there. Yeah, so I loved the food. It was amazing.
But Dame told me he didn't eat it that much because he's afraid that you get.
He was afraid he'd get sick.
Yeah.
Maybe. I know he had lunch though, I remember, in a little village out on the side by the road that was phenomenal. And I don't even remember where it was. It was just, yeah.
So for you're okay for the whole trip, and then you just do your job, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was more a lack of sleep because we had quite a crazy schedule. I mean, so early in the morning every day, going all day. And then, I was doing some writing at night so I wouldn't forget things. And it was very, very, very exhausting, but completely worth it. And, and you feel like you can't complain about something like that. I mean, big deal. I had a place to go home to sleep to,
So
really,
it's not
compared,
a cruise,
I mean,
right?
but it's not at all, it's not at all a hardship. And especially when you're looking at, people have lost their homes and they have nothing to ever go back to, let alone. So, if yours is sleep, we'll all get over that, right? It's not a big deal at all.
Okay. So 10 days mission, and then after that, you still have to do editing, voiceover for I know that you run 5 pieces on 6 o'clock news, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, the whole following week we ran a story each day with a live bit at the desk, and we posted on our website, blog articles, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think it was good. I remember actually getting quite a bit of feedback, and one of the interesting stories, a gentleman, he had been trapped and lost for so long, and everyone had thought that he'd been killed. I don't know if you remember interviewing him. And then he recovered and he got on the phone with his son, who was actually in Toronto. So I also remember after, so we did all those stories that week. And then a while later, when he came to Canada, their reunion, we got to see the two of them see each other again, which was also a very, very amazing story and something good to come from all of that.
Yeah, that's true.
If there is an opportunity, we can go again in the 20 years anniversary. I think Christina and Sean, we will very, very cheerful for that.
Oh, I join.
Yeah.
I will join.
I'm going. I'll go.
I go.
So I had been to China, but to see. And there's certain things that even I don't think photos, I don't think writing, I don't think video do justice to see the scope of something like that. There's no way, because you can't really understand just seeing it unless you're standing in the middle of it. And I think maybe that part, you can hear the numbers. And that's also why it's so important to actually go and report on individual stories, because you hear numbers. All these, it was something like, I don't remember the end numbers, around 70,000 people. You hear that and you think about it, it's basically a small city, but you don't really get it until you start talking to person after person after person who's lost something, or you see an entire hill where there used to be a village or a town, right? So I think that I think for anyone, no matter where it is, when it's that big of a tragedy, you can't really understand it unless you're there. And that's one of the challenges as a journalist is we're in this place and we're seeing it and we're feeling it. How on earth do we convey the scope of that to people at home, right? Like and that's what could be frustrating. And in TV, you're so limited. You know, stories were about a minute and a half. I think I got longer for these ones, and I always took longer. So to get all of that in, right? And you don't want to just throw numbers and information at people. You want to get the feeling in and the people. So so I think that was just, you know, like I've seen other sad and horrible things in my career, but just to see the scope of that and the number of people impacted and how you even start, it still goes through my mind, you know, how do you even think about rebuilding your entire life when not just your house is gone, but your neighborhood is gone, your town is gone. Yes. And then where are you starting from? All these people you've lost permanently, other people have survived, but you're not going back to the same place. So your whole social support system is gone because now one might end up over here and another over there, right? So the whole thing is a journey. It's a long journey.
On May 12, we all see the news that Sichuan earthquake. A month later, you land on the earthquake land, right? So that great feeling. So, and I think Finn told me after you guys returned, they say there was so many restrictions about the reporting. So you have to have different permits to the hospital. You got a permit, something like that, right? So
there was one town they did not. I'll say it wrong. Shifeng. There was one town where they didn't really want us there. The police stopped us, and we went through different checkpoints. And I remember they said, "Oh, it's too dangerous." But then a whole bunch of people just walked past that weren't journalists, you know, or this is happening, that's happening, and we had to go. We went and talked to an official in his office, and then it was a yes, and then it was a no, and so they ended up letting us go in for a very few brief minutes, kind of with an escort. And I think the reason why there was a lot of sensitivity about it, that was one of the areas this school had collapsed. You know, and there were a lot of questions about the schools, how they were built, whether they were built safe enough, that kind of thing. So that, I remember there was a little, small memorial that parents were going to, and with photos of their children. I think some had been found, some they didn't know about, and just the sadness, the anger, and so even though we were only there for a short time in that one place, you still definitely got a sense of it. Another place, we just kind of followed the Red Cross. I remember our driver was driving slowly, like, hurry, you have to stay up. We quietly followed the Red Cross right in and just kind of stuck with them, and nobody seemed to notice, or we just followed them to do whatever they were doing. So yes, but we did still, I mean, there were so many helpful situations too, where people helped us like get into the hospital to talk to survivors, that kind of thing. Where a lot of officials are like, yes, come and see what we're doing here, and see what's at one of the refugees, where, I don't know if that's the right term, where people were staying that didn't have homes, you know, come in and talk to people. So a lot of you know, officials were very helpful in trying to help us tell the story as best we could.
So Jeff, you have a question? No, okay. I think we all discussed that this is the first time Chinese media work with English media on a reporting mission. All right. So when we look at the chapter back, it looks like it's the first time. And after that 15 years, we still didn't find another similar mission or operations. So how you see the Chinese media, English media cooperations?
It was so good, and it was such a good idea. Whoever's idea it first was, what a fantastic idea. Look at all of the sort of different approaches you could have, and different places then for these stories to be told, right? Like a much wider audience within, you know, Chinese speakers and English speakers. And so I honestly was such a, I wish whoever's idea was, like, amazing idea. And it is kind of incredible that, yeah, you don't really, I don't know why you don't see more of that. You should, right? Like, I don't know why there hasn't been more, or wouldn't be more.
I think organize more.
Yes, like it's perfect, right? Like there's no downside to it that I could see. And I think that, yeah, like, and I think I learned so much too from my fellow journalists, and just, you know, approaching and culturally and just helping, you know, on the ground, and just like it wouldn't have been the same if it just an English speaking journalist, even with a fixer or whatever, had just landed there and tried to do the same stories. It wouldn't have been the same at all.
So it's not he say, she say, it's you say, because you're the one that was there.
Yeah. But it was we say.
We say, yeah.
We were there.
We
say.
Okay. All right.
I think I would like to take this opportunity to thank Christina. When we went to down the Qingcheng Mountain, right?
Yes.
Just behind the South Bridge, and I suddenly saw the words Nanqiao South Bridge. Then I was crying, and you just took those video for and just like you interview me and say something. That was a very emotional time.
Oh, thank you. I just remember it meant so much. Was it what was
my father's words?
Yeah, it was your father's. Yes, I remember it meant so much, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seriously, we wouldn't have most of those stories without Sherry being there with us and paving the way. And
Sometimes a lot, I know.
My opportunity, my pleasure. Yeah. Very grateful for this.
So
I think we all are. It sounds strange. I think only journalists really understand how you can really be grateful for going to a tragic place. But I think we're all very grateful for seeing that and talking to the people we talked to there.
Yeah, you know, after the 2008 Sichuan earthquake, we see many smaller earthquakes. Even this year, we got a Turkey earthquake, right? So that's natural disaster that's we can't avoid. But anyway, I think people should help each other. So that's it.
You know what else was so good about this was the fact that we did go 1 month after. So it happens so often when things happen in other countries is, you know, the international media will go and be there very quickly, and they get the immediate stories and the buildings that just fell and people still, you know, digging people out and that kind of thing. But I think it's a different story a month later. And in some ways more important because it's more individual. Like, you know, a building is a building, but when you see what's happening a month later and hear from people a month later where they've also sort of had some time to process and to understand what they've been through, I think it's a different story. And it's just as important, I think, as being there right when it's happening, which is when suddenly everybody's looking at it, right? To see it again a month later, I think you see it very differently.
I agree. 100% agree with Christina.
So, you know, 1 month for you to wait seems long, but it's not. I tell you, because first thing our association has the idea, and then how to make this idea to become reality. It takes a month. That involves, first thing, our association doesn't have money. We have no money in our association, Chinese Media Association. We have to ask the community support to raise $10,000 to fund 2 reporters to China. So it takes almost 10 to 14 days to secure that $10,000. All right. So once we have that $10,000, then we talk to the consulate, Chinese consulate, and then apply the visa for you guys. It also takes 2 weeks. At the beginning, no one said this mission should be going. Dangerous place, falling stones, conditions bad, maybe, you know, and pandemic, whatever. So for you guys to go, how to ensure your safety, your health, right? So, and then Jeff spent a lot of money, talked to Consulate General, talked to the Chinese news agency in China, and led them to make this reality. And you got a visa, and we booked the tickets. So
1 month is incredibly fast. For all of that.
It's fast,
right?
Yeah.
It's so funny, but in the news world, like, we used to joke that, if somebody didn't, in a regular day at work, if somebody didn't call me back in a half hour, to me, that was crazy. In a regular workplace, if they don't call you back in a couple of days, that's normal, right?
Yeah.
But in news, everything is so fast. But yes, to even get all of that done in a month is actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Right?
So that's the good thing, that you guys land on the Sichuan and do your job. So
yeah, we got there quickly.
Yeah. Okay. So and last that
Lucky to join you. I'm already there.
Yeah.
Okay. You one of each that give us 30 seconds. Tell your final or one sentence about these missions. Start with Christina.
I think that in something like that, you feel a great deal of pressure to tell. I think, like I said a bit earlier, you feel pressure to tell these people's stories well, because they've put their trust in you and they've spoken to you and they've been through so much and they're taking time out of their day to speak with you. But I hope we did that, and I hope by telling their stories, there was more awareness, that more help came. I know at one point Canada was one of the biggest countries as far as donations to the Red Cross. So I was hopeful that made a difference, and just the knowing that people cared, knowing it's important that people cared, and it was such a privilege. And I thank you guys so much for including me in that. It was a privilege to be there and a privilege to cover a historic event like that.
Yeah. So Hussein,
as a journalist, you always have some very important event, or in your mind. Like one of it is 2008. You gave me this chance to go back to my motherland, and at this special moment, my people are suffering over there. And as a journalist, I could use my professional skill to help them somehow do my job. So I really treasure this experience, and I thank you. And even thanks Christina and Sherry. We had a very good team. I learned a lot from you, and thanks, help me to finish my mission. And thanks, your organizers. Thank
Sherry?
you.
Yeah.
What I want to thanks, appreciation, and grateful, and also best wishes. Let me use some of the Chinese words. 我最想说的就是感谢、感激和感恩，还有更多的祝福吧。我想就是借这个15周年的汶川大地震，谢谢所有的这些以前帮助过这个主祭国和我的家乡，帮助所有的灾民，还有灾民们的自救，还有灾民们所有的重建家园的那份决心、信心和行动。也是借此机会吧，祝福那些所有的经历了灾难的人们，我也希望他们真正的站立起来，重建家园。还有借这个机会祝他们安顺平安，也是借这个机会祝家国安泰。谢谢。
So I just make a short translation. Is that Sherry is Sichuanese, so that she represents the people in Sichuan. Thanks all the helps from all around the world to conquer the disaster and make them live better, feel better. All right, so all the blessings. So Jeff, your turn.
Yeah, And I'm very happy, and we have the Zoom and the meeting today. I'm all proud of your team. You give a lot of and very impressive story, and help the Canadian people, and to donation a lot of money to the Sichuan. I hope one day your team can visit Sichuan again. And I hope Joseph and me like to join your team to visit Sichuan again. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think this is once in a life opportunity and also once in a life mission. All right. So it's lucky that we meet each other. It's lucky that we participate in this great mission. Thank you. Hope to see you guys in the near future. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Safe
Thank you.
and
Bye-bye.
healthy. Bye.
Thank
Okay,
you.
keep safe. Okay.
Okay.